and welcome to your evening Channel 3 News. I'm Leilani Charles, and with me tonight we have Jordan Tinkle. Our top story takes us across the globe, where we are covering the chemical disaster that has affected thousands in Minamata, Japan. Our report focuses on the Chisco Corporation, a chemical company that started with the production of fertilizers when it opened in 1908. It would quickly go on and become the most advanced factory in all of Japan. As the Chisco Corporation went, so too did Minamata as a city.
In 1932, the company began production of acetaldehyde to the tune of 210 tons. By 1960, this peaked at over 45,000 tons. Acetaldehyde is an important precursor to many chemicals, most notably acetic acid. In a catalytic side reaction that takes place during its production, a highly toxic chemical called methylmercury is created. On two separate instances prior, the Chisco Corporation breached due to problems associated with their dumping of toxic wastewater. In 1932, the company began production of acetaldehyde to the tune of 210 tons. By 1960, this has peaked at over 45,000 tons. Acetaldehyde is an important precursor to many chemicals, most notably acetic acid. In a catalytic side reaction that takes place during its production, a highly toxic chemical compound called methylmercury is created. On two separate instances prior, the Chisco Corporation reached compensation agreements due to problems associated with their dumping of toxic wastewater into the nearby bay. For more on this story, we take you to Emily Creech, who is live in Minamata with the latest.
Mercury is one of the many different heavy metals that can be responsible for poisoning. What mercury does when it is exposed to our bodies occurs in our brains. The mercury irreversibly inhibits enzymes in our brains that restore vitamins C and E. The vitamins counteract oxidative damage that occurs. Our brains are highly dependent on oxygen, thus making an oxidative damage into a magnified problem. Eating a diet in fish products already puts an individual at risk for exposure to mercury. Add into the mix that the fish are living in waters that are saturated with mercury, and the risks become almost a certainty.
I'd like to thank Dr. Harada for joining us today to really explain to us what and how something like this could happen. Please, for those of us unfamiliar with you, introduce yourself.
First of all, thank you for having me. My name is Misuma Harada, and I was the chief medical researcher assigned to understanding and determining the risks associated with Minamata disaster. In 2005, I was awarded a Global 500 Grove Honor, which recognizes environmental achievements across the world.
It was mentioned earlier that there were multiple instances in which the Chisco Corporation had to pay compensations to local fishermen. Why would they be allowed to continue after such allegations?
To put it simply, despite what outcomes were to come from their waste removal techniques, as we will call them, the city of Minamata needed the Chisco Corporation because of the increasing economic success of the plant and how this wealth would trickle down in the community at the expense of the environment, the fish, and eventually its people.
And we eventually saw these people began to fight back in what ways they could. Isn't that right?
Absolutely. Fishing catches were down 90%. On multiple instances, the fishermen, in a self-formed cooperative, marched into the Chisco Corporation demanding answers and rioting. It wasn't until these riots where Japan, as a nation, began to take notice of what was going on. The president of Chisco went on to install a water purification system and publicly drank water that had been processed through the system. Future testimony shows that they knew this to be an ineffective system and was merely a social solution and did nothing to solve the problem of the mercury.
The chemical came from wastewater dumped by the Chisco Corporation in Minamata Bay in Kumamoto Prefecture. Symptoms included numbness in the limbs and other neurological effects. It's considered the first sickness caused by environment pollution in Japan. About 750 people attended the ceremony in the city of Minamata, including bereaved families and people from Chisco Corporation. Mitsuko Oya is a 90-year-old victim. She lost her husband and parents-in-law to the disease.
My life has been difficult due to the illness. I don't want anybody else to experience such grief.
The environment minister apologized for the government not being able to prevent the suffering from spreading.
患者や
I pledge to provide proper assistance for aging patients and relatives to help them recover their lives. We will continue to tackle the Minamata disease problem in a responsible manner.
問題に対して取り組んでまいります。
About 2,300 people in Kumamoto and Kagoshima prefectures were officially recognized as victims. Nearly 1,900 died of the disease. More than 2,000 are still waiting for recognition.
So, what was it like that first night when you really started to see the effects of the mercury poisoning? I mean, it must be absolutely horrifying.
It really was. My daughter was just like any other happy, healthy little girl. We started noticing that she was getting sick when she had difficulty walking and speaking and breathing, and that was all followed by convulsions. We took her to the hospital, but the doctors had no answers for us, and no one could explain all of her symptoms in conjunction with one another.
Haley lived along the Minamata Bay for all her life and regularly shopped at the local fish market. Never did she imagine the bay her childhood revolved around would be responsible for poisoning the childhood of her daughter. So how long was it before similar symptoms appeared in the rest of your neighborhood?
It was 2 days that had passed, and now her younger sister has started showing the same difficulties in walking and breathing. All around us, our neighbors are falling victim to the same problems. No one can give us any answers on why or how the children are getting sick. As a parent, seeing your child sick in the way that they are is the most gut-wrenching heartbreak, and every word we heard before we took for granted because we didn't know how much of our child we would get back when all was said and done.
This is just heartbreaking to hear and to see the effects of what this can do to individuals and how easy it was to come in contact with the mercury.
We see every day around us the ways our environment is being polluted, and we don't stop to think about what prolonged exposures could do. Likewise, typically choosing to eat fish seems like a healthy diet, but it has its downsides as well.
Well, we all just need to be more careful and more observant going forward in our daily lives. Thank you for joining us tonight. For Jordan Tingle, I'm Leilani Charles. Good night.